I love those pink signs. Women for Trump. I love the signs behind me. Blacks for Trump. I like those signs. Blacks for Trump. You watch. You watch. Those signs are great. Thank you.
What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Donald Trump just signed an executive order rolling back the 1964 civil rights legislation. Yes. Donald Trump, on I guess this is day 2, made sure it was his priority to undo the work that our African-American ancestors and our African-American elders put in. They decided to reverse the hard work that African Americans fought for, right? To liberate ourselves, to give us a semblance of equality in this country.
Honestly, it should be 100% of the black people should vote for Trump, because I did more for black people than any president other than Abraham Lincoln. It's true. It's true. I did more than any president other than Abraham Lincoln. Think of it. Criminal justice reform. I took care of the black colleges and universities.
President Trump is ordering federal protection for Confederate monuments.
Yeah, his latest executive order is now coming under fire because it also allows the government to track your social media post. Bobeth Yates reports.
Well, according to the executive order, a person could face up to 10 years in prison for damaging a Confederate statue. And the order also allows for the monitoring of social media posts and personal information.
This really infringes on the privacy rights of Americans.
Letitia Brooks with the Southern Poverty Law Center says President Trump's executive order on protecting American monuments, memorials, and statues is a violation.
The Department of Homeland Security has been authorized to collect information on protesters who they say threaten to damage or destroy public memorials and statues. And of course, we know we're talking about monuments to the Confederacy.
Brooks says SPLC supports the removal of Confederate monuments, and the executive order is a way to delay those efforts. But organizations like the Sons of Confederate Veterans says the president's order is right on target.
We're in favor of that. We think it's a wonderful thing that he would want to appreciate not just Confederate, but all of American history.
O'Toole says the executive order is a way to protect history and is in support of lines like this one. My administration will not allow violent mobs incited by racial fringe to become arbitrators of the aspects of history that can be celebrated in public spaces.
What the president is saying is that vandals and people who want to destroy objects of American history are acting outside the law and should be punished.
O'Toole adds the Marietta Confederate Cemetery is one of the locations that has been vandalized, and as a result, they're now closed to the public. But while he hopes the executive order will deter other vandals, Brooks says the president's action is an abuse of power to push a personal agenda.
In the past, the federal government has never been called on to act against its own citizens in this way to protect property.
Now, those on both sides of this issue say they will continue to fight for their cause. Bobeth Yates, CBS 46 News.
New reaction tonight after another bold move by President Trump, this time taking aim at the Smithsonian Institution. He says it's to restore truth and sanity to American history. Critics say he's trying to whitewash it. 7 News' Carl Willis tonight with both sides.
The Smithsonian Institution, the world's largest museum, education, and research complex, and a powerful draw for visitors like Talisha Bhatia.
There's the Indian Museum, the African American Museum, all the Smithsonian's. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's also the latest target of the Trump administration and the focus of an executive order that aims to remove what the administration considers anti-American ideology. Certain narratives on the country's racial history. Part of the executive order reads, quote, over the past decade, Americans have witnessed a concerted and widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history, replacing objective facts with a distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth. The order also seeks to remove recognition of the achievements of trans women in the American Women's History Museum.
I feel like that's overstepping their boundaries of what the government, because it should be open and equal to everybody.
The executive order specifically mentions the Smithsonian American Art Museum, as well as the National Museum for African American History and Culture, for having divisive race-centered ideology. And some say this is an attempt to erase history.
It really hurts your generation, because your history is who you are.
And more controversy over a separate executive order this week.
This is only the latest in a pattern of attacks on our ability to control our own affairs.
The order would create a surge of law enforcement in public areas, maximize immigration enforcement, and help DC's crime lab get its accreditation.
We have a lot of good things happening in our country.
Patrice Sultan with DC Justice Lab says this makes her feel unsafe.
I actually see it as quite dangerous to keep doubling down on policies we know have failed just to score political points with people who don't even live here.
Carl Willis, 7 News.
Now, 7 News reached out to the mayor, MPD, and other offices that stand to be impacted by the order. None of them responded to Trump's decision to intervene in Washington, D.C.
Payments on the federal student loans are set to begin in just a few months, so they're going to restart in October.
A lot of people are going to have to pay this. Local advocates say payments restarting will impact Black and brown communities the most. 11 Live's Karis Belger is in Cobb County with more.
According to the Federal Reserve, Black borrowers are more likely than their white counterparts to carry a student loan balance, and just like members of the Hispanic community, are less likely to have the resources to pay those loans off. Georgia Tech senior Camille Troutman tells me she and her peers are anxious about federal student loan payments restarting.
Knowing the amount of debt that I could potentially be in and not being sure how that's going to affect my future and not knowing if anybody's going to be really there to look out for me.
She says she plans to take out student loans for grad school, which would make her one of more than 1 million Georgians to have student loan debt. Kat Welbeck with the Student Borrower Protection Center says the growing amount of debt people take on and rising cost of living impacts students like Camille for the rest of their lives.
Student loan debt affects people's ability to buy homes, their ability to start small businesses, save for retirement, and even, being able to start family.
The disproportionate number of those impacted being Black and Hispanic.
Nearly 90% of Black borrowers, over 70% of Black Latino borrowers borrow to take on debt to go to school. So they're more likely to graduate with debt when they leave school, which cuts into wealth building over their lifetimes.
As for solutions, Welbeck and Troutman say change will have to come from the top.
They really need to take a deep look into the people most affected, which is minorities, the Black community, and see how they can truly help us close that wealth gap.
There are things you can do right now to prepare for repayment in the fall, including checking with your student loan servicer about forgiveness plans and alternate repayment options based on your budget. In Cobb County, Karis Belger, 11 Alive News.
Several people in the Trump administration are now openly saying that the rationale that they have been using to strip visas from green card holders and student visa holders, particularly the student visa holders in universities, this rationale of you are anti-Semitic because you are criticizing Israel's attacks on Gaza. That they now want to redirect that toward U.S. citizens who are critical of Israel or who are critical of Trump, and claim that those of us who are critical of this administration or of Netanyahu's administration are enabling terrorism, which under the Patriot Act makes us guilty of terrorism, which then Trump says makes us eligible for deportation to El Salvador.
You just see them thrown in, rough. I said, please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head, and they've just killed somebody, don't hit their head. I said, you can take the hand away, okay? Now, if you had one really violent day, like a guy like Mike Kelly, put him in charge. He's a great congressman. Would you say, Mike, that if you were in charge, you would say, oh, please, don't touch them, let them rob your store. All these stores go out of business, right? They don't pay rent, the city doesn't have money. It's a chain of events that's so bad. one rough hour, and I mean real rough, the word will get out and it will end immediately. End immediately.